Fine. All right, you look at me and totally ignore this contraption.
Okay.
All right, first identify yourself by name and your school.
I'm Jonathan Zimmerman. I'm a professor of education and history at New York University.
You are also an extremely successful op-ed writer. You not only write op-eds, but you get them published. What's the secret?
Well, I think there are a couple secrets. I think the first is just being really timely. You know, in the rest of our professional lives, everything takes forever, and all of our work takes forever. But of course, the news pages don't have forever. So the first key, and it's always, it depends on what else you have going on, but if you want to get into print, you have to write about the thing that's happening on that day. I would say that's the first thing. The second thing is being persistent. Because I think a lot of historians, when they write an op-ed and somebody says no, they say, well, okay, it will sit on my computer. But obviously there are many different media outlets now, more than there ever have been, and I think that people should be more persistent than they often are in trying to seek them out. And the last thing I would say is I think you really have to be pithy. And pithy doesn't mean superficial, but it does mean boiling down arguments into digestible pieces that somebody who's interested in current affairs but doesn't know anything about the historical profession would appreciate. So I mean, the classic mistake, and I've seen this in my grad students because I have them write op-eds, is their first draft, they'll begin in the lead by saying, historians have long debated the origins of slavery, or whatever it is. And Rick, I have to say, you know, I'm a historian, and that makes my eyes glaze over. What if you weren't, right? What if you were a computer programmer, a fireman, or anything like that? You would stop reading, and the editors know that too. So it can't be about us. It's got to be about the event, the so-called news peg, and hopefully we employ some insight that we've developed to cast that event in new light, while keeping the focus on the event rather than on us.
Have you got a favorite op-ed? One of your own?
Oh, well, you should ask my mother. I think she would be the best authority on that. I mean, you know, I do try to write one every week or every other week, and I would say obviously they're of variable quality and insight and originality. But the other thing that I would say about this trade that's really useful, especially for younger scholars, is it inures you to failure, which is hugely important for any kind of success. So, you know, show me a successful historian and I'll show you somebody that's been rejected 9 times for every one time they've hit it, a grant, a job, whatever. And the good thing about op-ed writing is you get rejected every week. And so you get used to it, which again is the key to improving and to moving on.
Now, of course, you've left out the most important advice you could have given anybody, which is if they can't get their piece into a newspaper, send it to the History News Network, editor at hnn.us.
Absolutely. Send it to Rick Schenkman, and I should say that I'm deeply grateful to you, Rick, and to HNN for, you know, for pumping my pieces. Because, you know, I have met people who don't care how many eyeballs they get for what they write, and basically I think they're liars. Why would you do it if you didn't care who read it? So I care deeply. And I want more eyeballs. If I devote myself to thinking through a subject, I want more people to read it. And outlets like yours have helped with that, so I'm very grateful.
Well, I'll share with the audience what the observation of the production editor at HNN, which is we should rename it from the History News Network to the Jonathan Zimmerman News Network.
Don't do that. Nobody would ever visit. Your eyeballs would decline.
All right. Now, you've got a new book out.
I did.
How's the marketing of this book going?
Actually, thanks to the publisher, Princeton University Press, it's been going fabulously. I'd like to do something that historians almost never do. I'd like to give a plug to my publicist. The person at Princeton University Press, her name is Julia Haave, H-A-A-V, and she's a pro. She knows the landscape, she understands the book, and she's done a better job than anyone I've ever worked with in getting it recognition, which is your job as a publicist. Now, she does have a certain advantage, which is that the word sex is in it. And I will confess that that word was not in the title of any of my other books, and now I deeply regret that, because it is clear that if you put that word in the title, it gets more hits, and it doesn't necessarily make anybody buy the book, but it does generate more attention.
We're back with one final question. You mentioned that your students, you want them to write op-eds. Why is that?
Well, the answer's changing. What I used to tell them, and frankly other scholars in the field, was that I felt that we as historians had a duty to share with wider audiences what it is we do, and I still believe that. But my pitch has changed because the job market has changed. And now my pitch has a much more utilitarian and, if you will, professional rationale, which is there aren't going to be enough academic jobs for even the smaller number of historians we're training to, quote, be academicians. So I frankly think it is or should be a part of your professional training to learn how to write for other audiences, because given what we know about the job market, you're quite likely, or there's a good chance, you're going to be doing that. You won't just be writing for an academic one.
Thanks again.
Okay, thank you.